everybody, and welcome to a special bonus episode this week of My EdTech Life. I am so excited for you guys to be here joining us live. Please let us know in the chat where it is that you're joining us from today, and please go ahead and join us with your questions or comments. We would love for you to participate. And again, as always, ladies and gentlemen, I am thankful to each and every single one of you for all of your support in making My EdTech Life what it is today. So thank you so much. Visit our website, drop us a line, give us a review. We'd love to hear from you. But let's go ahead and have some fun. I am so excited about this show. This show's probably been like 2 weeks in the making, and the anticipation has been building and building because I have two amazing, wonderful guests that were recently, well, actually, Natalie has been on the show before. Ashely, this is her second podcast, but her first live show. But I'm excited because I heard these two ladies on a podcast, and actually, Ashely was Natalie's guest, and we'll talk a little bit about that a little later. But today's topic that we're going to be talking about is workplace relationships, guys. I know oftentimes we discuss how maybe difficult the workplace can be. Maybe, we throw words around kind of like toxic culture, things of that sort, and it can be very difficult, and especially during these times, but it's important to find those that team member, find your friends, find that marigold, like Jennifer from Cult of Pedagogy says in that in her blog that she posts. But today we're going to talk about how important that is, and I just couldn't think of two better people to talk about this topic a bit based on the podcast they recorded earlier. So let me go ahead and have them introduce themselves, and I'll go ahead and start with Ashely. Ashely, how are you doing today?
I'm well. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here tonight with you guys.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ashely. And I'm excited to have you on the show. Like I said, I heard you on the podcast with Natalie, and I was like, yes, this is so cool that I get both of you here. So, Ashely, tell us a little bit about your context and education. And if you can add, I always like to ask this, just one interesting thing about you that people may not know.
Ooh, well, this is my 14th year teaching, so I feel really proud about that. I have taught in a lot of different settings. I started out in a private school. I graduated college right during the recession, and it was so hard to find a job, and I was super lucky and found a job at this amazing private school. And then was able to get a couple years experience, went into one of the largest high schools in Oregon. And then my husband decided he wanted a career change. And so we ended up moving, and that got me into online education. And I think this is my 7th or 8th year teaching online, and I teach high school language arts. And let's see, one interesting thing about me is I like to travel. And so we have like lots of travel goals for our family. We have 30 kids, and we hope to take them on a lot of interesting places in the next couple of years.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ashely. I appreciate that intro. And again, something that might be new that you mentioned, it's like 7 years in online education. That's right. But, online school has existed prior to COVID. So, just for audience members that are listening or those of you that are watching, that's right. She did say 7 years in online education as a language arts teacher. Natalie, my friend, how are you today?
I am lovely today. Thank you.
Oh, excellent, excellent. And I did mention you have been a guest on the show before. We had an
Yes.
amazing conversation, getting to know you and talking about tech tools and just, keeping it simple and things of that sort. But
Yeah, I'm getting
for
clicky with it.
getting clicky with it, that's right. But for our audience members that may be watching this or listening and just barely getting to know you, please
Mm,
introduce yourself and share a little bit about your context in education and maybe an
sure.
interesting little thing about you that people may not know.
Okay, I can do that. Yeah, my name is Natalie Conway. I am currently not a teacher. This is my first year in a long time not teaching. I work full time for SYS Education. I'm a podcast host, and an instructional coach. And I love it. It's a new challenging position, which is really cool. This is my 17th year in the world of education. Like Ashely, I started out in brick and mortar first back in Massachusetts, where I'm originally from. And I did special ed at the elementary level in a brick and mortar school. And then I got to be a third grade general ed teacher in that same school the last 2 years I was in Massachusetts. And that was a blast. I had inclusion classes those years, and they were amazing. Moved to Oregon, taught in brick and mortar for a year, and then stumbled into online school. And so the rest is kind of history. I'm at a point now where I've been about 50-50. So half of my career in person and the other half online, which is pretty fun. And let's see, one thing you might not know, I love ultimate frisbee. I used to play ultimate frisbee in high school and then college. I started a team in college, and it was a blast.
Nice. So that's good to
Yes.
know. I thought you were going to share a little bit something about maybe this. No, but I won't put you on the
Yeah,
spot.
and I got a cavity filled today. Brush and floss, everybody. I don't know. I'm just an old person, I guess. I got a cavity, and I think I can feel my cheek now. So
You're such a trooper. You're such a trooper for making it on the show after having that procedure done. So
it's
thank you
all
so much
good. I
for
told the
joining.
dentist, I'm like, I have to speak at 6 o'clock. He goes, okay.
Oh, that's wonderful. And a big shout out to our audience members that are joining us. We've got Bo here that's joining us from Portland, Oregon. So hello, big wave. And my great estimado amigo, my friend Gerardo Navarrete. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. And yes, I agree, Gerardo. Natalie is amazing. Gerardo, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you. Thank you. All right, guys. So let's talk a little bit again. The way that this idea came about for this bonus episode, it was just because of an episode that you put out, Natalie, where you were interviewing Ashely. And I just heard you all and just your chemistry, the way that you talked. And I was like, wow, like they really work with each other. It's because, it's like you guys, it was great. So I just loved it. And I said, you know what? I just want to bring you guys on because I think that one of the things I haven't covered, at least as some of the topics are, workplace relationships and really how important those can be to just for one's well-being, just having that buddy there that's going to lift you up, give you that hand, just give you that pat on the back, things of that sort, and learn from one another. So let's talk a little bit about that. So Natalie, when did you first meet Ashely, or how did you all first make contact? Here through, I guess it's through SysEd that you made contact.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so
even before that.
Okay.
So Ashely, did I know you at Orva? I don't know if I did.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. So we actually were both in the same like big box online school years back, and we didn't know it because I worked primarily with elementary special ed and Ashely's secondary English. So we didn't meet there, but then we both worked for FCA the first year it came into being. And so Frontier Charter is an online public charter in Oregon. And so that's how I met Ashely. And I was like, I love this girl. How did I not know you before? We really hit it off. And when you're starting a school, you're starting with a really small staff and everyone's wearing multiple hats. And Ashely and I just got to work together a ton and realized we had a lot of the same values and a lot of the same interests. So I think that's where it all began, was FCA.
Yeah, definitely. And that, first year of that school, it was really easy to get close with all of the staff because there were only, I think, 5 or 6 of us. And so when we met, it was like, okay, we can all fit around a dining room table in our boss's living room because this was like the first professional development of the school. And it was really fun because, like Natalie said, we had to collaborate with everyone because we were all doing all the jobs all the time. She and I both have kiddos that are the same age within a couple months of each other. And so when we'd go on field trips, it would be all the guy teachers, and then she and I were the only ladies, and we had babies. And so we'd have our babies in the pack, and then it would be so we bonded over like motherhood and just the small staff. So it was, and it was really easy to do that. So yeah, we were super lucky to meet each other at FCA that first year and get to work with each other ever since.
Nice.
Oh.
Well, that is wonderful. And especially like you're mentioning, Frontier Charter was something that just, hey, let's go ahead and start a school with the idea in mind. Obviously, anybody that starts a school, you want to grow, but starting with this small team, bringing in those people and really getting to know each other, I think that's something that's very important in that team building that was just so organic. And especially, starting something brand new and you all are jumping in feet first together. And I love the way you described it. Very first PD around a dining room table. That is so cool. Like, what a neat experience. But, going into this, and of course, as the school continues to grow, and of course, your roles are being defined as far as what you're teaching, what it is that you're going to be doing. How did your connection that you made at the beginning, not only between yourselves, but with your other colleagues, how did that help as far as the collaboration aspect? Can you tell us a little bit about that? Natalie, I'll go ahead and start with you.
Sure. So at FCA, Ashely had the title lead teacher, I think. And Ashely's done a ton of PD and training people and coaching and all of that before. So that was just her role, and she is beautiful at that. And then as we started to grow, we got more and more new teachers every year. And so the principals were like, hey, we could probably use another person to help out with this. And I'm one of those people who I see a need and I'm like, I'll go help fill that need. That's fine. And Ashely is so open to collaboration all the time. So I was like, hey, I know you're lead, but can I do this thing? Or I'm going to help this person with this. And it just kind of very naturally happened. And like I said before, we're just so aligned with how we feel about education and what we value and how we approach teamwork and how we approach conflict and that kind of thing. So it just kind of naturally happened that way. And then now at SYS, we're still able to collaborate and work together. And I think the neat thing is that neither of us really has an ego. We know what we know and we like what we like, but we're also very open to hear the other person's opinion. Or you could spend an hour on a slide deck for a PD and share it with the other person, and 3 of the slides go away, or 2 of them get totally changed, and it's all good, So I think we both just have the same end goal in mind. Like, we want to do something that's awesome for kids. And if we're going to do that, then we're going to do something that's awesome for teachers, and always just trying to improve and learn something new.
Excellent. Now, Ashely, how about yourself and your experience from, like you said, in that collaborative aspect from beginning until now? How has that developed for you? And, how great has it been to be able to work not only with Natalie, but your other colleagues that you get along with very well?
Yeah. Well, I think that FCA and SYS were kind of built on this culture of like vulnerability and collaboration, where teachers are like really encouraged to just be in each other's classrooms, be vulnerable with each other, collaborate, and not have the answers. But instead, like, I have my idea, Natalie has her idea. We're better if we are together, talking it out. And that's what's best for kids, is lots of ideas coming together to have like the best idea. And so it was just really easy to do that. That was also really interesting to me, and one of the reasons I joined FCA and SYS, because I like growing and being challenged and being able to try new things and have that creative aspect in my job. And so that's something that I was really actively searching for after some of my previous positions. And Natalie, when I first worked with her, was our SPED teacher. And so at our school, she would co-teach and co-plan. So I was like under her umbrella of teachers she worked with. And so she would be looking at my class, and we would be meeting every single week. And she would collaborate with me on, how's your planning going? And, what kind of students are having some trouble accessing your curriculum or like completing their assignments. And she would work through those scenarios with me, which is really vulnerable, because like as a teacher, especially if you've been teaching a while, you kind of feel like you have a lot of stuff figured out, and you probably do, but there's still a lot of room to grow. And it's hard when someone's looking at the creative work that you made all by yourself with, some help from OERs and whatnot, but and then kind of helping you process that and analyze it to make it better. So you have to like really open yourself up to that. And I think that, having a good relationship with somebody really helps it be comfortable to be open like that. And since Natalie and I were able to work together before and get to know each other, I mean, she's easy to have like a really positive relationship with. And so it made it comfortable for her to give me feedback like that. But even with professional development, one of us will start the ball rolling on something for SYS, for this group we're working with, and then the other one will be like, okay, I like that, but what about this? And so together we can kind of mesh your ideas, and we've been working together for so many years that that's really natural for us to do. But I really like just kind of working to change the culture of schools into having that vulnerability and that team mindset to help students. That's really important to me.
Oh my gosh, like I'm done. That's it. Like you guys, that's the show, everybody. Oh my, you have just, wow. Like it's just so great to hear. And Amanda, like she posted here, it's nice to hear the positivity. Josh also, who's joining us, he said right now he's doing 2 Twitter chats and he's joining us here also as well. So big shout out to Josh. But yes, Amanda says here, we can't do this alone. Josh also, saying stronger together. And the things that you're describing, maybe just because of what has happened, obviously in the last 18 months and coming back face to face, what I have noticed is like everybody is at a heightened state of alertness. Everybody sees things a little bit different. We've been away from each other for about a year and a half. And now that we come back, it seems like, our eyes have opened to things that maybe we never saw there before. And, obviously, people are tired, teachers are tired, things are happening. But just to hear both of you, the way that you're talking and just you're talking about the collaboration, how well you get along with each other, that teamwork and being vulnerable and that culture that you have where there are no egos and changing that culture that it's okay to not know everything, but hey, I'm here to help you out. That's so important. And I really appreciate you guys sharing that because it seems like you guys definitely have some really, really great chemistry here. So let's talk a little bit about that vulnerability because that's one of my favorite things. It wasn't until I went from high school to elementary that I learned that it's okay to not know everything and be vulnerable, in front of my class and in front of my students. But I must say that it's not very easy to be vulnerable in front of other teachers because sometimes they may see that as a sign of weakness. So, what are your thoughts on that? Yeah, I would just love to hear what your thoughts on that are. So, Ashely, I'll go ahead and start with you.
Okay. Yeah, it is really hard to be vulnerable and open with other teachers because they're your peers. And I remember going through college and one of our professors, like our senior year, when you've already like totally committed yourself to the job, you're 4 years in, he was like, yeah, teaching is such an isolating profession. And I was like, how on earth is it isolating? You're like around humans all day. And then my very first day of teaching, I remember like almost panicking right before the kids came in. I had like 5 minutes and I'd already like written everything on the board, stacked on my books. It was like just weirdly organized. And I was like, I'm all by myself. If something goes wrong, what do I do? And it was terrifying. But it's only really isolating if you make it isolating. I feel like I didn't really understand until I got into online education that you can have some of the most like in-depth relationships with other teachers and students online when you live hours away from them and maybe never even see them in real life. And that is not a barrier for creating those relationships with students or your colleagues. And one of my most like pivotal experiences as an educator was when I was still teaching in a building and we were offered some PD from this writing instructor, and she had us do peer observations where we got subbed out and we would go watch other teachers in our department in the building teach, and then we would observe them. And the rule was you can't say anything negative. It's not evaluative because teachers are always worried, like, are you going to go tell my principal if I screw it up? Are you going to tell on me and then I'm going to get fired? And it's terrifying. And that was the most beneficial thing I had ever done as a teacher, is go watch other teachers teach and go see what they do. Because then when there's a good idea, I go down the hall and I say, hey, can I have that short story to do with my class too? Let's do this together. And that really opened up the door of the possibilities I saw with what being vulnerable and collaborating can do. When I moved to online teaching, immediately I was like, these teachers I'm teaching with are so cool. We need to do peer observations. This is a need. And ever since then, we've been doing that. And I think that has really been a journey through the online programs that I have been a part of, including SYS, where I'm helping lead teachers through that peer observation process to help them learn how to be vulnerable with all the same things that we do with students, with like sentence starters, note templates, guided debrief sessions and things like that, so that we can teach teachers how to do that. Because I think that being vulnerable when you're an adult is a learned skill, and teachers need the time and space to practice, and then they can do it. They'll open up to it.
Oh man, I love what you said there. Teachers do need that time to practice. It's like sometimes it's like you don't have enough time to plan and prep. And so it's like we're always in a haste, like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do this because state testing is coming, and everything depends on that. So, yeah, sometimes it's like that. I think I oftentimes feel like if we were to really invest some time into this, and I know it may be hard to ask because it's the key barriers are always money, time, and amongst other things, as far as, making teachers feel comfortable. And I love what Josh said here, something that's very important. And Josh is coming from this in a principal perspective. He sits in that chair and he was an amazing guest and he has some wonderful insight. But I love what he says here. It says it's crucial that administrators set the culture of respect for colleagues. So this is something that also comes from the top, so as it is from the top, that's the kind of culture that you seek, because oftentimes there could be schools where you may be a team, but each person is in their silos and nobody wants to share anything because that's my stuff. Like don't look at my copies or what I made copies of. And it's kind of like, wow, like, we're a fifth grade team. Like these are our kids. These are not just like, hey, these are your kids. No, no, no. These are our kids as fifth graders. We're responsible for them and things of that sort. Amanda also, she chimes in. She says here, culture and climate of schools can be toxic or growth oriented for students and teachers alike. And then she says here, I agree. Josh, leadership does set the tone. Let me see what Bo has to say here. It says, I've seen Ashely as lead teacher intentionally share a lesson that did not go the way she wanted, which is super helpful for the young teachers to see. That is great. That is such a wonderful idea there, because sometimes, hey, we realize that sometimes that ship sinks and it doesn't go the way that you want it to. But I saw a tweet earlier that says, hey, if your lesson, breaks in the middle of everything, don't worry, crunchy tacos break and we still love them. So it's all good. Just kind of, it's all good. Natalie, talk to us a little bit about this, for yourself, going a little bit deeper, maybe, or just expanding on what Ashely was saying through your experience, maybe sharing a little bit about vulnerability, whatever it is you'd like to share. The floor is yours, my friend.
Oh, thank you. I think vulnerability is essential. I think it just has to be something that's okay. And I agree with the folks listening in that it comes from top down. That's really helpful. I also think that it can be grassroots. If you have someone in your district, in your school, like Ashely, who's presenting to the staff, and she has expertise in a lot of areas, and she has information and knowledge to share, but she's going to acknowledge her mistakes too, or she's going to acknowledge that it's not perfect all the time. She's going to involve herself in peer observations, even though she's leading the team through them also. That speaks volumes as well. So there is that opportunity always for that bottom up. I'm always into grassroots, like what can we do at the start? So I think that's really important. My perspective is so different because as a special educator, my first year as a special educator, I was in an inclusive model. So right away, I am inserting myself into everyone's classrooms, and you don't have a choice. I am just coming on in, and you do that with grace, and you do that slowly with some people and not as slowly with others, and that's okay. So it's always interesting to me to hear teachers talk about how it is hard for someone else to come in and see them and see what they're up to and do. And especially in the online world, I am literally clicking through all of your stuff in Canvas, whether it's published or not, and giving feedback or saying, this is so awesome, I can't wait to do this with kids. So I think for a while at the start of my career, I absolutely took for granted that teachers had to be vulnerable with me. It took me a little bit of time to learn how to kind of finesse that a little bit more and make sure that teachers are seeing that I'm just not someone coming in with all these answers or solutions. Like, let's collaborate and figure this out together. And there certainly have been all kinds of flops of lessons that I've collaborated on or tried to assist with. So I think vulnerability is definitely something that if a principal or a leader is modeling, that's really important. That's really going to be helpful. But also that teachers can kind of be brave too and model that for one another. And it doesn't always mean, just being positive. It means being real and being honest. And so like I'm working with a school right now and helping them transition to a more inclusive model for how they serve special ed students. And, it's hard, and there are real concerns and there are real worries. And so letting people share those while also encouraging and giving tools, I think it just vulnerability and openness go hand in hand to me, I think. And so it's like, if you can just be open to someone else's idea or to change, then you're going to go a long way for students.
Yeah, and that's huge, and oftentimes I think many teachers, and this is based on some of the discussions that we've had in one of my classes that I'm taking in the evenings, and a lot of the common denominators there is really a lot of teachers, they want to be listened to. Like, they want to feel like, hey, I know, this may not be going well, but these are our concerns, or this is the way they're opening up, and they just really want to see like, hey, okay, I'm listening, let's see what we can do. And sometimes that can be very hard. I know that there's a lot of responsibilities, a lot of things that are happening, but we really need to take care of our teachers. We really do need to make sure also that they feel comfortable within one another. I believe psychological safety is definitely something that is very, very important. And it's something that I know I learned at least to have that classroom, that culture in my classroom when I was, even from high school all the way down to elementary, where it was a safe space for everybody to share and just be open about things, even though you may agree, disagree. And I think that's something that is definitely very important for teachers to have, where they can, come and talk to their lead, or their facilitator, come talk to the department head, even come all the way up to the administrator. And so those are things that are very important. So I really appreciate you guys sharing, those moments of vulnerability and the way that you've seen it. And mainly also, I see the way that it's helped you grow, but it's also helped you help others grow. And like you said, it seems like that's something that is really pretty much part of your culture on the day to day. And that really is something that's wonderful. So let's see here what says here. Josh says the main chair needs to remind everyone that a growth mindset is needed in the new chapter of education. The main chair needs to show they don't have all the answers, or have all the answers, show being open and vulnerable. Love it. And Amanda, honoring teacher voice and advocating for student needs are not polar opposites. They're interrelated. Thank you guys, Josh, Amanda, everybody for your comments, Bo, for your comments. Keep them coming. So, ladies, let's talk a little bit more, and kind of building up this conversation, going from that vulnerability in the way that you're modeling to as well and building up that culture. But how has that helped also in the transfer of skills, not only in that you're saying, hey, it's okay to be vulnerable, but how has that really just amplified, I guess, the culture there as far as, um, I guess, morale and productivity and maybe even learning? I know that's a loaded question, but we can just tackle the pieces as they come. So, Ashely, any thoughts on that? What your experiences?
Well, I think, seeing other teachers teach like along the lines with peer observations, that really empowers teachers. And it also naturally creates a way for teachers to step up and kind of like showcase their skills. And I think that, it also is a positive way for teachers to really motivate and support each other. And like with Natalie said about, it's not, having leadership and like that positivity and vulnerability come from the top down is important. It's an important model for teachers, but who's going to probably be at the school for like 30 years? It's the teachers. Like they have got to have each other's backs, and they're going to be the ones that are there like long term for most situations at schools. That might not always be the case. But like empowering teachers to use their voice, to support each other, to have each other's backs, I think opens the door for them to share skills with each other. If the time and space is given, and that's something that administrators could do. However, teachers could also, within their own collective selves, make that happen without an administrator having to like sub them out. For example, they're able to run this so that they can support each other, and it can be a grassroots effort where they're able to identify teachers, so and so down the hall is really good with teaching our kids how to take notes. Can you share that with us at our department? And then just having somebody maybe who is like has a loud voice or something that's like, having that other teacher down the hall be like inviting them to their department meeting so that they can share. And that could be a department chair or maybe not, but I'm a teacher, who's really caring about that, can help the teachers who might be quiet have an opportunity to share out what they're doing. So I feel like, the best PD and the best skill transfers are happening in a natural way like that. Like teachers supporting each other, teachers identifying what they want and need to learn, and if possible, having that come in-house. And I think that both of the places that Natalie and I have worked really foster that. If you take care of the teachers, they're going to take care of the students. You want to have the teachers teach each other as much as possible, because you get your kids, you get your school, the people you work with and the style, the needs of that school. And so you can take care of that within, help each other learn and give each other opportunities to do that. So I think like the most powerful way that I've experienced that skill transfer is kind of in that way.
Nice. Natalie.
Absolutely. My head is spinning with all these ideas. Like, yes,
Me
I
too.
agree.
Yes. I'm just like, okay, blog post right now.
Right. This is why I love working with Ashely, because she makes me think of all these ideas. I'm just thinking back to my brick and mortar days. I taught third grade, and the teacher who was next to me, we were in the modular, which is the fancy word for the trailer that was attached to the school, like, with plywood. But and we had a door that connected our two rooms. And it was fantastic because one of us would just open the door, like swivel in on our chair and be like, check this out. I just did it with my kids and it was great. Or like, don't do that lesson we said we were going to do on Thursday. It was terrible. Like, this is what happened, whatever it was. And I totally agree with Ashely that peer-to-peer, that day-to-day interaction, that's your best PD in the world, not the one-off that's, going to happen for 3 hours on a PD day or whatever. But that collaboration between you and your peers. And I think one thing administrators can do is make time for that. the master schedule, there's been a lot of talk in the past couple of years about master schedules, and how a master schedule is put together speaks a lot about how a school values equity, or how a school values historically underserved populations. And I think that's really true. And you have to have a few sets of eyes on that master schedule to see, okay, is this going to work? What are the ramifications of doing these certain things? And teachers need to have some common time where they are free to do that in-person collaboration and bounce ideas off of one another. Just that simple act of, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Or what do you, coming up in the module, next module is this thing. I don't like this lesson. How do you think we can rework it? Just having those informal conversations, but at a formally scheduled time, is really important to have that collab time. I think teachers right now are feeling pretty stressed and pulled in a lot of directions. And like you mentioned, state test scores, right? These state test scores have to be where they are. We're data. And we really have to take a step back and make sure we're taking care of each other and taking care of the kids in those basic needs ways. So I think a lot of my personal skill development has come from just collaborating with other teachers, simply learning from them and seeing something that they did, or getting their input on something that I'm doing. That's been the biggest thing for me. And then again, like Ashely said, learning in-house. So if someone's really good at accommodating project-based learning, or someone's really awesome at using Google Slides, let them share that and learn those skills from one another. That transfer is a lot easier to take, and I think it sticks.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I think also it really helps amplify your creativity, as an educator. And I'm all about, amplifying creativity, not only with kids, but it's always my thing. It's like, I need to amplify my own creativity. And like you said, being able to ideate with people and say, hey, like you said, there's this lesson. Yeah, I kind of really don't like the way it's structured. Like, what can we do to change it? And one thing that I love is that my friend Matthew Woods was on the show. He said, look, when they give you standards, it's like they tell you what standards you need to cover, but they don't tell you how to teach them. But as long as you stay within that sandbox, hey, you can get as creative as possible on there. So there, like you said, having that collaboration, meeting with that teacher that is great at this. So I'm going to take a little bit about what she's doing, take that other teacher down the hall and say, okay, I'm going to take a little bit of what he is doing. And then all I'm going to do is just sprinkle it on to what I already do great, and just add that additional zest and spice to that lesson. And you've got just a creative lesson there that's going to be engaging for the students. And then the effort that you put in there will definitely show that passion, that work. And even if it doesn't go well, but hey, you know what? You had fun doing it. And the kids are great too. I mean, when you're vulnerable and, the kids see it, and like Josh Tovar always says, it's like, the kids will work for you, but they need to know that you care before, they'll go ahead and believe anything or do anything that you ask them to do. And then they'll invest themselves in what they're doing, and they'll even help you out. Like, that's the part that I missed, being in the classroom in 5th grade, where I would mess up and my kiddos would be like, don't worry, Mr. Mendoza, we can do it tomorrow. Or, hey, don't worry, Mr. Mendoza, check it out. Let me show you how we did it. And then I was like, cool. All right. Hey, show the rest of the class. And, it's just that culture that we built there. But that's one thing that I love. So yeah, that's great. And I really wish that we would definitely have more time to, if you're having a planning and prep day, to actually allow teachers to plan and prep, and not kind of add additional little things on there that, you're adding more to their plate and adding more to their plate and not taking anything away from their plate. And I know that also, makes teachers feel like, whoa, just overwhelmed. And like you said, we got to take care of our teachers, so that's wonderful.
I think it's about finding someone you trust too. And it doesn't matter if they teach the same grade or the same subject, but just like someone you trust in your school. Like, Ashely and I trust each other. And so we're able to say, like, oh, I don't know about this topic. Like, we need to read a book, or like we need to check out some podcasts or do some PD ourselves. And, we'll totally do that. And
Yeah.
I think that maybe you don't need to be globally vulnerable or globally, open in that way. But if you find that at least one person who you just trust and build that relationship, that's going to be worth $1 million.
And that's what I mean. That's great that you said that trust. And so I want to share a little anecdote. So we had a class discussion 2 weeks ago for one of my courses, and we have principals in there. We've got several principals and several other admins that are there. And the topic they were talking about trust. And so they said, like, who do you trust? And everybody's answer was no one. Trust no one. And that kind of made me feel like, wow, like that doesn't sound right. Yeah, there must be something going on there in that culture, in their setting. But the majority of principals that were on that chair and administrators always said, trust no one. I was like, wow. So that kind of took me back a bit because I know how important that is, at least when I was in the classroom. And even so now, it's important to find that someone that you can work with and you're building with, and you have a common goal, which is to help your teachers and help your students. And I think trust is definitely something that is very, very important. So yeah, interesting stuff. So Amanda says here, it says, that makes me sad. Says that makes me sad. We should be able to trust each other in education. And I don't know, could it be also maybe that trust issue could be as far as been seen as like, well, no, like competition, it's competition, not collaboration, and you're trying to one up me. So I think that kind of goes with the culture, wouldn't you say, that is kind of built there in that area? Thoughts on that, ladies?
Yeah, I do. I could see that. It does also make me sad, just like Amanda said, though, but I do feel like that is true. I feel really privileged that I am in a position at a school where it's not like that, but I have been in schools where it is like that. And, even with teachers, like, I want my kids to do better on the test, or I have this like super secret cool way I teach this lesson or this book. And then that's just cool for my class. And that's what I do. And I don't really share those resources. Um, and yeah, I've definitely seen that. And it seems like that, in my opinion, kind of turns it into more of a toxic environment for teachers. Like, we're humans. Like, we need people. We need to be with a group who cares about us and supports us, cheers us on, so that we can do well. And, back to what Natalie said about just finding that one person, if there's like a school then that is like that, then finding even just one person who maybe doesn't teach the same thing you do, but you can even just like go to after school and like sit in their room and just talk about random stuff, or just like someone who makes you feel comfortable. That is going to be starting that good relationship that you have to help you associate happy feelings with your workplace, and then hopefully bridge connections and build over time to maybe be a professional collaborative relationship. That would be the hope, at least. But I feel like, starting with baby steps and just genuinely caring about people. And like you were saying too, Fonz, asking people how their day is, caring about listening to them, and maybe even just doing that with one person, but being there for each other to kind of help each other get through this tough time in teaching right now.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. We definitely need to take time. Like I was mentioning to you, Ashley, it's like, it's like if you're going to ask somebody, hey, how are you doing? Be purposeful and stop and listen, to how they're doing. Cause usually it's always in the morning, you just walk by and it's like, hey, how are you doing? Good. Okay, good. And you just keep going. And you could have missed an opportunity to make either they can make your day or you can make their day. And that's something that's very important too, as well. Natalie, anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think trust is really hard. I think if we're realistic about that, trust is hard in your private life, trust is hard in your work life too. And with trust comes risk. And so, making a calculated risk about who you're going to kind of let in. Brene Brown talks about that, like who you're gonna let into your circle, right? And so just like Ashely said, start small, that one person, and then it'll grow from there, because that one person might have their other one person, and then that becomes your second person. But I think the more that people see other people collaborating, the more they see other teachers, laughing about their mistake, or yes, I'm still working on my time management. I will never get that lesson done before it's gym, whatever it might be, like, then it normalizes it. And so if you can normalize being human, if you can normalize making mistakes, if you can normalize not having all the answers, that goes a long way. I think that pays a lot of dividends down the road. So just that one person, those two people who you can be honest and you can trust and be open to maybe being hurt by them. I don't know, but knowing that it's a risk worth taking, because at the end you're trying to better your own practice for who? For your students. It's all about the students. And so if we can kind of put our own egos or our own fears aside, real as they are, and take that risk, I think it's really worth it.
Yeah. I love what Josh put here, ladies. It says, we are not in the science business. We are not in the math business. We are not in the history business. We are in the people business. And he continues on by saying, the main chair is the QB of the team. If they don't trust their players, his team will never win a game or move forward, which will destroy our hijos. So that QB needs to be pulled and sat on the bench. Powerful words from a powerful educator, from a powerful principal. And if you don't follow Josh Tovar, you better follow Josh Tovar on Twitter. Follow him on Facebook, because he is fire. So I know I always said, like, I never want to be an administrator, but after listening to Josh, I'm like, dude, I want to be a principal. And after listening to the Unlock the Middle guys, I was like, dude, I want to be a principal. Mike Earnshaw, I want to be a principal. So anyway, but like you said, it's important to find your friends, find your scene. My friends at Punk Rock Classroom say, you just find your scene and just hang out and build each other up, and that's something that's very important. Well, ladies, I thank you so much for what you had to share on this. And we're kind of ending the little serious segment here, and we're going to move on to the little fun segment, kind of like questions that I love to ask, just to kind of wind us down and, to take the conversation to another little level where we can just, converse and be cool and things of that sort. So just to get to know you a little bit better, Ashely, what are some ways that you like to get out of your head sometimes when you don't want to focus on work?
Ooh, that's a good question. Before I had kids, I have 3 kids. I love to run, and I would do that all the time with people by myself. And so I'm working on getting back into that. Mostly I love to cook. I feel like after the school day's done, I love just like getting in the kitchen. I send my kids outside to play, and I just like to kind of be alone and cook a really good dinner. That's probably my number one main thing I do to get out of my head, especially after work. And then, of course, like in classic English teacher, I love to read. I read a lot of things Natalie tells me about. We share books. We live far away, so we mail each other books. I have a book over here I need to mail back to her. So probably like reading and cooking are the 2 biggest things.
Nice. And I know Natalie, I think the last time she was on, she reads like crazy, and she was like on this reading plan that she was doing. And I don't know if she's kept up with it, from the last time we were on. But Natalie, what are some ways that you like to share, that just ways that you get out of your head?
Absolutely. I'm getting another master's degree. So reading I still love it, but yeah, now I'm reading a lot of things that aren't my choice, but that's okay. Reading for sure. And also journaling, writing helps me get all the stuff that is in my head and in my heart just out. Things I don't even know are there, but are stressing me out for some reason. Or just, in the back, like the noise in the back of your mind sometimes, like if I can journal that. My daughter, she's 4. She just gave me her crayon. She gave me a box of crayons. She's like, these are for your journal, so that it can be like a little bit brighter, instead of just a pencil or a pen. Mom, I'm like, I love you. Thank you. And she has a journal now too. But that really helps me just kind of cleanse a little bit. And then also running and just being outside, just going for a walk, taking the dog for a walk, like just physically leaving the house. When you work online, you work from home, you just kind of need to, sometimes shutting the door to the office isn't quite enough. Like you need to actually leave at least for me. I need to leave the premises for a bit. So anything in nature, anything just getting out, and then being with friends, which, with COVID was really hard, but just somehow connecting, even like Ashely and I, we don't live anywhere near each other, like she said, but just picking up the phone or, texting back and forth and having human connection. That's always a big one for me.
Nice. That's great. All right. Next question. Natalie, we'll start with you. Are you a planner or are you spontaneous?
I'm a spontaneous planner. How's that? I kind of like to know, but I also have trouble committing a little bit, so no, I kind of like to have a plan, at least a loose plan. And that doesn't have to be like to the nth degree, but I do like to know, like, what am I doing this weekend? I don't know. I'm probably going to start planning it tonight, so yeah, I'm kind of a planner.
Nice. How about you, Ashely? Ashely, planner or spontaneous?
I feel like I'm just going to copy Natalie's answer.
This is why we're friends.
I feel like in work, I'm definitely a planner. In life, I'm mostly a planner, but I also like to be spontaneous. It kind of stresses me out, especially during my non-work times, to have like a huge, tight schedule. And so I like to keep it open so that we're free to like go on fun adventures whenever we want to. But in work, no, definitely scheduled.
Excellent. All right, ladies. Next question. Ashely, we'll start with you. What would you say is your edu kryptonite?
I don't know.
Can
Natalie go first?
All right, we'll let Natalie. Natalie, what would you say your edu kryptonite is?
Oh, I don't know. I'm like laughing into the camera here. Time management. Time management is still my edu kryptonite every time. Like someone will be like, "Hey, you have 30 minutes to teach this lesson," and I'm like, "I think I'm gonna need 40 though." Like that is just it's my Achilles heel, I guess. Is that timing? It takes me a while to figure it out.
Okay, excellent. Good answer. Ashely, we'll come back to you.
I think probably, I don't know. I would say like maybe people who have a negative outlook on their job. That is really hard for me because I love my job. I love what I do, even when it's really hard and stressful sometimes. But I just, I want to like work with people, and I guess I want to like be around happy people because I'm a happy person. And even if it's not all the time, having like a negative outlook on what you do is kind of hard for me to be around. Yeah.
Excellent. Good share. Good share. All right. Last two questions, ladies. Last two questions. This one's a new one that, usually I kind of stick to the same ones, but this one is a new one here. So we'll go with Natalie. Natalie, if you can make one of your hobbies into a profession, which one would it be?
Oh my gosh. If I could read things and then write things, is that a profession? I don't know. Yes, if I could make that, I'm like, someone probably does that, right? If I could just read stuff and learn from other people and then synthesize that and write a blog that would actually be a job, that would be amazing. I would love that.
Nice. Okay. I would have said like, okay, I mean, podcasting, just
Well,
do that
someone
for a
pays
living.
me to do that. I'm super lucky. It makes zero sense. I'm just very blessed and fortunate. So yeah, that would totally be it. But yeah.
Nice. Hey,
Maybe
I'm
NPR. Like if NPR came knocking,
Yeah.
bye SYS. Like, see ya. Sorry.
No,
Totally
man,
hear
that must be nice. Hey, SYS, you looking to sponsor anybody? I'd be happy. All right. Ashely, how about yourself? What would be that one hobby that if you could make it your profession, what would it be?
Maybe, I mean, this is not education related, but maybe like cooking. I think I see those like Instagrams where people are just meal preppers and then they just like cook for people. I just feel like food is so powerful. It brings like warm, fuzzy memories. It can heal your body, comfort you when you are sad or sick. And I would love to do that for people. I love cooking. So I think bringing them food would make me very happy for my job.
You would be
Oh,
so
that would
good
be
at
great.
that.
Yeah,
You need to
seriously.
do that.
Yeah, I love that. That would be great. Like, yeah, I don't know. That'd be a great, maybe that'd be a new endeavor there, cooking, and then you can be the blogger, the food blogger, Natalie. You can go ahead and write the
Yes.
descriptions and things of that sort. There
I'll be
you
the one who
go.
puts everything in the little glass bowls, so it's all out for you,
Yes.
Ashley, and it's all
Yes.
Yeah,
pre-measured,
love
and then you just
Yes.
like Rachel write it and stuff.
There you
Yes.
go.
it. Go.
All right. So, Ashley, being that this is only your second podcast experience and your first live show, let's pretend that this is your show and you're interviewing me. What is one question that you'd like to ask me?
Hmm. What has been one of the most influential learning experiences you've had in school? Like the coolest project or a really good experience with one of your teachers or in one of your classes?
Okay, I'll talk about my doctoral class. It was my special topics in STEM class with a professor that I had. His name is Jair Aguilar, and getting into the doctoral program, and like Natalie, talking about her master's and having to read things that you kind of don't like to read, but you just gotta read them. Well, it was great because I have a passion for STEM and anything ed tech, and so it was such a great experience that I had with him that I was able to, I just took off blogging. Like, so he really helped really ignite a lot more of that passion for blogging and really reflecting on my work, reflecting on my writing, and kind of making me feel confident. And it's like, hey, I have ideas too. Like, I want to put them out there too, as well. Not necessarily to be like, hey, look at me. But a lot of the work that I shared was a lot of the work that I did for his class, and it was great just to get some feedback from other either PhD students and even other people, just to say, hey, pretty good stuff or really cool. And it was always also how he made me feel in the class. And he always he comes from a Hispanic background, so he would always call me, or call all of us, colegas. He would always call us colleagues, and we're like, wait, but like you have a PhD and we're just students. He goes, no, no, no. He goes, not in my class. In my class, we're all working together and we're all collaborating. So he would always just call us colegas. And that to me was like, wow, like this is so cool. Like, so it just goes to show how even as adults, imagine how for a kid, in your classroom, and you're including them, and you know, it's all about how you make them feel. I mean, it was great. So I must say that that has been one of my most recent best experiences that I've had in school. Again, it goes back to, it's not necessarily the work that I did, which was great, but it was how he made us feel in class. And that's very important. So great question, Ashley.
Yeah.
And we'll turn it over to our veteran podcaster here, who, by the way, I did mention to you and I sent you the tweet, I have officially declared myself. All right. So everybody listen, sis ed. All right. I have declared myself the president. All right. The president. All right. Of Natalie's podcast. All right. I am the president of Sis Ed, and anything that Natalie does, fan, all right, of the fan club. I am the president of the fan club. So, again, just really excited. Like, since the first time Natalie was on the show, we really hit it off great. We wrote a blog together, and, it's just been great to have you back on. So, Natalie, my expert podcasting friend, what would be one question that you would ask me?
Your ever-growing podcasting friend. Yes. Okay, here's my question for you. A lot of people right now feel kind of negatively about the field of education and all the things that are peripheral to it that kind of make the job a bit harder. What keeps you in education? Why do you keep coming back?
What keeps me in education? I'm going to be frank and honest with you, because it's kind of like my mission in that sense. Those of you that have heard the story, I never wanted to be a teacher. I fell into education and I absolutely fell in love with it. And even to this day, serving in different capacities and different roles, from high school teacher down to elementary teacher, and serving now in this different role where it's central office as instructional software guy. Um, it's like a lot of people just he's just the computer guy. But, it's like what keeps me in education is that I want to show and prove to people that even if you never had a passion for education or didn't want to be an educator, but now you are, I want to just share my knowledge, share my experiences, and really inspire people to follow into come into this wonderful, job is teaching. It's such a noble profession. And I know it seems hard and I know it's difficult, but I don't know. It's helped me grow so much to even not only pursue my master's, but take it to this next level with collecting another expensive piece of paper. Like Natalie and I joke around, we're like in the expensive paper club. But it's just that passion that I have that I just want to share with everybody. I want it to be something contagious, and that at the end, somebody says, you know what? I remember that guy Fonz, he was passionate about education. He saw it through and he shared that passion, and it inspired me, or it inspired him, it inspired her to just keep doing it, leave your mark. And it's given so much to me. And I want to give back to the educator community. And that's what I love. And that's what I do. That's why I do what I do. I just want to give back to the educator community, the community that has given me so much. And it's just like a pay it forward thing. So that's what keeps me in education. And obviously, taking care of my teachers, that really motivates me too as well. I want them to be successful. I want them to have the tools to share with their students, and in order for them to be successful as well. But in the end, it's just I am so in love with this profession. It I don't know. This is the first time I'm really open and honest about this, so I'm pretty making myself pretty vulnerable. I love this profession, and I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. So yeah, that was a long answer,
I
but
love that. No,
it
I
had to be
think
said.
I think it's a relationship. Ashely, maybe it was you who said it, like teaching. Yeah, it was. Teaching is a relationship, right? We have love-hate relationship with teaching sometimes, but you stick with it, because you love it. It's your,
Yes,
it's your
yes.
soulmate of a job.
Yes, it is. And again, I never wanted to be a teacher, but here I am 16 years later in education, and I can't wait for the next 20, 30, however long I'm able to do it, and continue to share, and whatever I can do in any capacity, I'm going to keep doing it as long as I can. So I love it. All right. Well, ladies, thank you so much for this wonderful bonus episode, this wonderful evening. You guys have just pumped me up. You've filled my head with ideas. You've filled my heart with joy in seeing other educators as passionate as you and inspirational as you guys are. And just the way that you guys just get along so well. It's so wonderful, so comforting. And I'm really excited for what the future has for you guys. And hopefully, this won't be the only time that we collab. We'll definitely maybe write some blogs, do something together. Maybe we can combine our talents of cooking, reading and writing, and podcasting, and expensive papers, and kind of mash it up together in some way, shape, or form, because that would be great. But thank you,
That would
ladies,
be
so
awesome.
much.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
you
much.
guys. All right, guys. Those of you that are watching and joining us, thank you so much. As always, if you caught us here midweek, it's been a while. Our class schedule has gotten in the way, but today we were off. We seized the opportunity, we took advantage of it, and we had a wonderful conversation. So please don't forget, stop by our website, myedtech.life, check out our merch. Give us a review. Again, guys, feedback. Give me some feedback. Are we doing everything okay? There are things that you'd like to see changed, let us know. I'm always happy to oblige, because I always want to give you the best of me. And of course, we will continue to bring you some awesome guests such as Natalie and Ashely. And we've got some great, great guests that are coming on along this coming weekend and the weeks to come. So thank you guys for all of your support. So again, have yourself a wonderful evening. And don't forget, guys, till next time, stay techy.